Welcome to the official Finovate podcast with Greg Palmer. In 2007, Finovate set out to create a dynamic fintech showcase featuring live 7-minute demos. For more than a decade, our global event series has brought together tens of thousands of people from across the fintech spectrum to see cutting-edge technologies. Now you can find out what goes on behind the scenes as key influencers and innovators share the stories that they don't get to tell you from stage. Here's a glimpse of what we have in store this episode.
Just this endemic issue within financial services to not fully understand the mobile attack surface around their mobile apps. They need to protect and secure their mobile apps just as much as they protect and secure their own web servers and their data centers.
And now, your host, Greg Palmer.
Thanks for tuning into the Finovate podcast. This is Greg Palmer, your host. Today I'm chatting with Alissa Knight from Aite, a hacker turned security analyst, and we're going to be discussing vulnerabilities in mobile apps. Alissa has spent a lot of time researching this and doing some, quite frankly, fairly terrifying work in this area. There's a lot still to do. I'll let Alissa explain what she's been working on. Let's go ahead and jump into the interview. I'm chatting with Alissa Knight, an analyst for Aite. Now, Alissa, you have a book coming out pretty quickly here called Hacking Connected Cars. You've done some work with the FBI pretty recently. You've released a report earlier this summer. It's been an incredibly busy time for you. So let's get right into it. We've only got 7 minutes here. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing with the FBI? I think you were saying you took down 80 newly compromised Magecart web pages.
Yeah, so the initial impetus to speaking at the Finovate conference in spring was the first report I created for ArcFan, which was downloading 30 financial services mobile apps, reverse engineering them, and finding vulnerabilities in them, specifically hard-coded API keys and API secrets. I've now published a second report for ArcFan, which is titled On the Trail of Magecart. And what I did was, it was a research campaign to go out there and find actively compromised Magecart websites. And within about 2.5 hours, using a collection of different tools, I found 80 websites that had been actively compromised by Magecart, several of which were pretty large brands, and worked with the FBI to do victim notification and a takedown effort of the collection servers that those sites were pointed at for harvesting those credit cards.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, so a busy summer for you. Now, you did a great job up on stage, and I remember many folks in the audience were watching your presentation. It was one of the first times I think you presented that report. And somebody in the audience I overheard saying, wow, she only has 200 Twitter followers. It looks like she's about to explode. Sounds like that is, in fact, what happened, which is kind of awesome. And obviously really happy that you came to Finovate first. But tell us a little bit about what your summer has been like since you first appeared on the Finovate stage in San Francisco.
It's been pretty chaotic. As you mentioned, you guys were my first stop. It then turned into a speaking schedule of about 10 countries, speaking about the findings from my research at different conference venues. And I really did explode after that. So thank you for that, which is why many reasons I love the Finovate family. So yeah, I've now grown across all my social media platforms about 70,000 followers. And so it's been awesome. And my fan base continues to grow. As a matter of fact, the sales reps at Aite Group now call themselves my talent agents. So yeah, it's been a pretty chaotic summer, with working with law enforcement on the second report. I'm now starting a new research project around a massive fake bank decoy net. So there's just a lot of exciting things happening, especially within the financial services sector. I really consider myself to be a hacker turned full-time influencer and content creator, where I'm creating content around these pervasive issues within financial services and fintech.
Well, and certainly you're doing very strong work. And I think that it's something that's become clear. I try to read as much as I can of what you put out. And, but let's take a step back here because, pretend, just say hypothetically, that you're talking to someone who spends a decade running a fintech conference that only gives companies 7 minutes to show their latest tech. That person, that hypothetical person, again, would probably have a pretty short attention span. How would you kind of summarize some of your key findings, the high level takeaways for somebody, this hypothetical person who maybe has a pretty short attention span after a decade spent in that field?
I think there's an endemic issue within financial services for a lot of financial services companies to outsource the development of their mobile apps. A lot of these very large, including large banks with billions of dollars of assets under management. And you would expect them to have floors and floors of developers who are writing these apps, but it's actually outsourced. As a result of my research, I found that there was an endemic issue across all of these financial services companies to hard code API keys, access keys, API secrets in their mobile apps, causing a backdoor, if you will, into their data. So I would say that the best way I can summarize it is there's just this endemic issue within financial services to not fully understand the mobile attack surface around their mobile apps. This software-defined perimeter where the edge of their network really doesn't exist anymore. It extends to everyone's mobile phones. And they need to protect and secure their mobile apps just as much as they protect and secure their own web servers and their data centers. And it's just not something that these financial services companies seem to have visibility into. They'll outsource the development of the mobile app, give that company an API key for that app to communicate with their servers, and in many cases weren't even relying on the authentication authorization they should be relying on. Many even lacked things as basic as OAuth for authentication. And so this is a new attack surface that hackers are shifting their focus to. They're focusing on hacking APIs. They're focusing on hacking companies through their mobile apps. So this is something that they need to pay attention to.
I think there's a really interesting piece that you hit on here. Talking about outsourcing, this is kind of a pretty common technique in fintech. And it's obviously a lot of companies who come to Finovate are looking to be that outsourced company. But from the standpoint of financial institutions who are doing that outsourcing, it can be a really difficult challenge as you look at comparing who you actually hire or who you want to hire to do these services. Obviously, creating the mobile app on one side, providing security protection on the backside. Is there anything that you could say, any advice that you could give about, things that you should look out for if you're a financial institution, how to pick the right provider and really give yourself the best chance of staying safe?
Yeah, you may outsource the development of your mobile app, but you need to understand that you're not outsourcing that ownership of risk, right? So you may outsource the development of your app, but you need to understand that you're retaining the risk. So when there's a breach, it's not that outsourced developer that's going to get thrown under the bus, it's your own brand. So my advice would be take that seriously, understand that you need to apply the same risk assessment and risk treatment options that you do to your own servers with your mobile app. And even if you're outsourcing the development of it, have a penetration test done of that mobile app. Have a static and dynamic code analysis done of that mobile app. It's okay to outsource the development of your mobile app, but just understand that the same risk methodologies, the same risk management principles apply.
That's really fascinating. I think that's an important piece, that due diligence. Obviously, this is a fast moving industry. There's a lot of pieces that are coming at any given moment in terms of the types of attacks, the complexity of attacks, the avenue of attack. And that due diligence is just so vital in making sure, as you said, you assume the risk. So you need to make sure you do that proper due diligence as well. And there we are. We've hit the end of our 7 minutes. That went very quickly, as I suspected it probably would. I would encourage you to check out Alissa, read her book when it comes out. Again, it's called Hacking Connected Cars. It should be out very shortly. Check out either of her most recent reports. Very fascinating reading. And Alissa, thank you very much again for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you so much, Greg. It was a pleasure.
Great conversation there. You can see why we've had Alissa on stage at Finovate Spring and Finovate Fall. We'll continue to have her on stage at upcoming events as well. And for those of you who are interested in joining us at a future event, check out Finovate.com. Our next few shows will be Finovate Middle East in Dubai in November, Finovate Europe in Berlin in February, Finovate Spring in San Francisco in late May, and then we'll be returning to New York for Finovate Fall 2020 in September. As always, the discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% off on any tickets to any of our future events. If you're interested in learning more about how to present, speak, or sponsor any of our events, check out finovate.com. If you enjoyed what you're listening to, hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll be back next week with a new episode for you.
Thanks for joining us on the Finovate podcast this week. Brought to you by the team behind Finovate and produced in association with Provoke Media. Make sure you tell your friends about the show, leave us a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to our show, and check out our upcoming events at finovate.com.